Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Tolkien, starring Nicholas Hoult, Lily Collins, Colm Meaney, and forgive me if I said that wrong, and Derek Jacobi, and directed by Dom Kurukoski. Now, I remember seeing this in the Fathom event before I went to a second viewing of this, and let me tell you, I wish I saw that Stephen Colbert interview, but 15 minutes after the movie was over, no, there's no way. And it was supposed to be done around like 10 o'clock at night. And then it might have went on a little bit longer. Like, I don't think I could do it. Especially after a 2-hour movie. But let's get into it. The movie starts off with J.R.R. Tolkien, otherwise known as John Ronald Reuel, forgive me if I said that wrong, Tolkien, played by Nicholas Hoult, which part of the problem is the real guy is from South Africa. And I'm not seeing that in Nicholas Hoult. But he's in World War I in No Man's Land, which is a real place in Thesum, France, set in 1914. And there's a lot of back and forth between Tolkien and the war and Tolkien growing up as a young boy, and that was the biggest criticism I am going to give throughout this movie. Tolkien, his brother, and his mother moved to Birmingham, and they come home one day, and Tolkien sees his mother is laying there dead, and I did feel for him. But I was not that I've ever went through that, but it was what happened in the real life of Tolkien. So I can connect with the movie at this point. Now an orphan, Tolkien and his brother live with Mrs. Faulkner, and they changed schools to King Edward's School, which is a very good school. Tolkien has visions of his stories like horses, dragons, and leafed trees. And I like his imagination, and the school seems like a very good school. At one point they play this game, it's kind of like football, I think, and Tolkien and Gilson get into a fight, and Gilson's father is the principal of that school. And I like how they'll eventually become friends and get tea and do other things together with two other people. And I like the relationships between the four characters. Edith Bratt, as a young girl, plays the piano, and I like her as a character as well. Tolkien makes friends, and I really like them as they grow up together as well. Tolkien and Edith fall in love, and I really like they're an adorable couple, and I like their scenes together because these actors have such good chemistry. I also like the four boys' relationship and how they make a pact together and say Hail Haima, not Hydra, but Haima with an M, which I found terribly clever, and these characters I'm connecting with when they spend time together. A grown man, Tolkien, and Edith, played by Lily Collins, have lunch at a fancy restaurant and talk about an invented language, and Edith throws a piece of sugar in a woman's hat, and they get kicked out of the restaurant, when I found rather clever. I do believe Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins have very good chemistry. Edith meets Tolkien's friends from school is a scene that was pretty good acted by these actors. Tolkien and Edith go to a play and get sold out on and can't get inside, and while waiting in line, Edith brings up a magic ring to rule them all, and dwarves, which was an interesting callback to what he wrote in The Lord of the Rings. In the box office, cashier disses them about how they dress, and Tolkien takes Edith to the backstage to act out the play they were going to see, and I really liked that scene. I thought it was cute in a magical kind of way. Tolkien takes the test and fails, and the family priest that hangs around with Tolkien talks to him and decides to keep Edith away from Tolkien, and they reluctantly agree. I felt bad for Tolkien and Edith as a cute couple, and in the war there's a man named Sam, and that made me think of Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings. And that's another callback I like too. Tolkien gets a letter from Edith saying she's getting married to another man, and he gets drunk for it because he'll never see her again, and we'll get a callback of the hooded orc from Lord of the Rings, and one of the friends, Jeff, comes to cheer him up and to get off the grass, and the next day he meets Professor Wright, played by Derek Jacobi, to Tolkien, and talks to Tolkien about the language he invented, and I like him as a professor to Tolkien. The character otherwise is very interesting. He reluctantly agrees to take Tolkien as a student, and I like him as a character for this matter. Someone announces England is at war with Germany, and Tolkien joins with no choice, and Edith says goodbye to him until Tolkien wants to spend the rest of his life with her, and she tells him to stay alive, and I love that young love scene between them as he goes to war with the Germans. At the end of the war, Tolkien gets out alive and stays in a hospital bed, with Edith sits with him. As he wakes up, he thinks about marrying her, and Tolkien has 3 kids and becomes a professor himself. He tells his kids a story of Middle-earth, which is The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And the movie ends with Tolkien writing The Hobbit. As these biography movies go, The Hobbit was a big hit, and the credits roll with some beautiful music. And I'm going to just say it now. The score in this movie is beautiful. I will admit it now. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.7 out of 10. This movie is well made and is well acted. I really like the chemistry between Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins, and the friends who work really well together with Nicholas Hoult. And I also like the callbacks to The Lord of the Rings, and I like this movie. I solidly recommend this movie for Middle-earth fans. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me for this Lord of the Rings and Hobbit leading up to this movie. And until next time, let's go to Middle-earth and let's say goodbye.